Hi, I'm Marty and this is Cooking at the Krause House. Today you are going to learn how to make the most delicious pot roast ever, and the drippings of it make the best gravy. So it's so tender and juicy. I know everybody's made that roast and you thought it cooked great and you're trying to cut it into slices or something. This pot roast is fork tender. You can cut it with a fork. It pulls apart with a fork. It's delicious and it's so easy. My mom used to make pot roast almost every Sunday, except for the Sundays that she made meatloaf. And my husband used to tease about it all the time, that we had pot roast every Sunday, but we loved it and it's so delicious. And it always reminds me of Sunday dinner and I love it, and I think you will too. All right, so for our roast, we're gonna want to start with a pan. Of course, we're gonna use our Dutch oven, which we use for everything because they're awesome. And when you put your roast in, you don't want to have a lot of room around it, because if it's too spacey, then your juices evaporate and you don't get the delicious gravy that you would have if you had just made it just the right size. So you don't want a lot of room. So look at your pan and look at the size of roast you have and try to make those be similar. Today we're going to cook a beef roast, and chuck roast is my very favorite. I love chuck roast. And we're also using a pork loin. Now I like pork loin, but if I'm cooking just a pork roast, my favorite is pork shoulder or pork butt or something like that. But today we're using pork loin and chuck roast. And also the things that will go in there is, this is a little bit of Montreal Seasoning, about a teaspoon. This is a 1/4 teaspoon of Creole Seasoning, which I like to put a little sprinkle of it in everything. This is a teaspoon of pepper and a teaspoon of kosher salt and a teaspoon of garlic. We also have about 5 garlic cloves. This is a half of a probably medium-sized onion and a couple of carrots. Now, sort of like the short ribs recipe, we're not going to save all this, so it doesn't matter if it's perfectly depapered, because we're going to strain that out anyway. Also, we're going to use a 1/2 cup of red wine, and this is a little over 4 cups of beef broth, but we're just going to add enough to where it covers the roast, and it's going to be delicious. We're going to cut our carrots up into just chunks. We're not going to eat these, remember. We're just going to put them in the pan so that our gravy tastes delicious. And that's one of the reasons I sometimes use 2 roast, because it makes the gravy so yummy. But lots of times I cook just a beef roast or just a pork roast. But the 2 together just make really delicious gravy. And then I'm just going to chunk this onion in about thirds. All right, now a lot of people sear their meat. Personally, I don't think it makes any difference. I know some people are really big on it. And so if you are and you want to, sear your meat for a minute on both sides. But I'm not trying to keep the juice in. I want it to get out into the gravy, and I have never noticed a difference when I do it or when I don't. So we're gonna put the roast in there. And this is actually a little bit tight, but my other one was too large. So I'm kind of squeezing the roast in there. So you can see it's almost to the top. It's pretty much in there. And then I'm going to sprinkle my seasonings. You don't have to be all that careful about it, because once you pour the liquids on, it kind of knocks the seasonings off anyway. All right, next I'm going to put in my garlic and my carrots. And I might not have room for all these carrots, so I'll just put in what I have. And same with onion. I'm just going to probably put a couple of these in. All right. And next I'm going to pour in my red wine. And then I'm going to pour beef broth all over the counter. Now I've completely covered the beef roast and I've covered most of the pork roast. That's enough. Now I'm going to put the lid on it and I'm going to put it in the oven at about 300 degrees for 4 to 5 hours. After about 4 hours, take the lid off, pork it with a fork. If it just falls apart, it's ready. If it's not, put the lid back on and put it in for another hour. And so we'll see you when that's done. All right, there you have it. It is fork tender. You can just take it out of the pan and get rid of the fat and stuff. You don't want that in there when you serve it. And it just breaks apart with your fork. So you can put it on your platter and you can serve it. Of course, this is delicious with mashed potatoes, and you can make the most yummy gravy from what's left. If you look at the braised short ribs recipe, I already showed how to make gravy with just flour and water and pour that into the sauce after you strain it, the drippings, and you'll have the most delicious gravy and the tenderest roast you've ever eaten, and everyone's gonna love it. Thanks for watching. Please remember to share, to notification button, all the things, whatever it is, all the things. And come back next Monday. Thanks.